Hi, welcome to another edition of Footprints in American History. Today's edition is Codename Rover. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about Eleanor Roosevelt, the wife of Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who was our president during World War II. Now, many of you probably know the famous expression that she was said, "Nobody can make you feel inferior without your consent." But she was quite an extraordinary woman. A lot of people probably are not aware of how extraordinary a woman Eleanor Roosevelt was. The day after the Pearl Harbor attacks, FDR gave his famous Day of Infamy speech. After that, Eleanor Roosevelt, she also gave a speech. Her message to the nation was about the importance of being prepared, the importance of knowing how to react in certain situations and how to be ready in case of an emergency. She started doing trips out to the West Coast, San Francisco and many of the cities on the West Coast, to kind of get them prepared for civil defense. This was a big deal to her. She wanted people to be ready. She was especially concerned about the role of women in this war. Now, not long after that, she went to England, and FDR was actually a little against this, but she went anyway, and she wanted to find out how the women were doing with the war effort there. She also wanted to visit American servicemen. She visited factories. She wanted to learn about what the British were doing. Now, this was very difficult on the English at this time. Germany was bombing them almost nightly. They were really having to deal with a lot of really bad things from the Nazis. So she saw up close what the English were going through, and it kind of broke a stereotype for her, because before that, a lot of Americans, including herself, she saw this, the British having to work together. The image was that the British had this social system of, different classes, such as the working class or the upper social aristocratic class. So she saw this, and what happened was she was very impressed with how they were working together. They became one people because of the war effort. Now, she was working 16 hours a day. She was working from 8 a.m. till about midnight, and people could not keep up with her. Even the strongest people said they had trouble keeping up with her. But people were so thrilled to see her come through there and want to visit with them and spend time with them. She promised the servicemen she would write letters home for them if they asked. And she did follow through with this later on. So she did this in England. Now she comes back to the United States, but before she could come back, there was now the concern, how are we going to get her back? Because there was concern if she came on a military transport, she could be shot down. There was concern if she came over in a civilian plane, that there could be some kind of dangers. And they were having to call her Codename Rover because they did not want her name going into official documents or memos and somebody leaks the information to the wrong side. So during this is a real concern. How do we get her back to America? Well, what happened was Roosevelt finally just gets tired of it, and he says, I don't care how you get her back, just get her back here. Fast forward to October 1943. The war is still going on, but Roosevelt himself had an idea that maybe he could help boost the morale of the people fighting the war in the Pacific by sending her to do a Goodwill Tour there. She agreed to it, but he did it under the conditions that she was going to go to Australia and New Zealand. Now, Roosevelt's thinking was this will be a lot safer for her, but it will still make the news and it will still encourage people. So she did go there, and she visited factories and people that were working. She went to a parachute squadron, insisted they allow her to ride with a cockpit, that she could be part of that crew and fly with them. But she also visited an all-female ambulance squad that not only did they carry the people in and out of the ambulances, but they were also doing work on the engine, the maintenance of the vehicles, everything. So she was very impressed with the role of women over there in Australia and New Zealand, as well as the Americans that were doing it. Now, she had the idea of going to Guadalcanal. Now, that was a lot more dangerous. Admiral Halsby, he had already told her, I dreaded you coming here because of the concerns. He was worried about her interfering with the operations of the war. However, He did let her go to Guadalcanal. Now, she had already talked to somebody at the Red Cross. They suggested put on a Red Cross uniform, and this was a wonderful idea to her because it did not mean having to carry this wardrobe with her. She could just wear this uniform every day, made life a lot simpler. And once again, people had keeping up with her. She was working those 16-hour work days that was just exhausting people. But she was visiting servicemen, she was visiting all these other people to encourage them, and it did. In fact, Admiral Halsey changed his mind about her because he saw the work she was doing and how just morale was being boosted by her. In the end, Eleanor Roosevelt had visited between England and the Pacific 400,000 people. Now, to give you an idea how many people that is, the city of New Orleans only has about 384,000 people. That's the entire population of the city. She visited more than that. And she did keep her promise. When she got back to Washington, she followed through on that promise. She wrote every single person she made a promise to for the families to write them and let them know. In the meantime, my name is Jeff Dial. Thank you for watching this edition of Footprints in American History. Please like and share the videos, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell if you want notifications of future videos, and also take a look at our Facebook page. We have a lot of information about prior videos that were done. We also have a lot of information in there that don't make the YouTube channel. In the meantime, fair winds and following season.